What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another Nightdive stream hosted by me, Miss Slaughter. We have something special for you today. Instead of our normal community night stream, we're going to be doing a holiday edition of the Deep Dive podcast live, which they're usually pre-recorded, so this is going to be a fun little special treat for you guys, featuring some of your favorite Night Dive devs, including Larry, Steven, Locke, MBG, me. I'm not normally on Deep Dive, but here I am today hosting it for you. So we're here to kind of recap on 2024 and Nightdive's accomplishments and what they've put out, and the games and the quality and what you liked about them and what your favorite one is, and pretty much all things Nightdive games that have come out this year and maybe even in the past if you want to talk about our past games. But yeah, we're here to just celebrate Nightdive and its accomplishments and just have fun with it and talk about what we loved about the games. And we definitely want your input as well as our own. So definitely chat us up and let us know what you think. Be a part of the discussion. And it's going to be fun. We're just all hanging around in Discord, having a little eggnog, celebrating this past year and ringing in the new year. So get excited because there's a lot more fun stuff in store for you next year from Nightdive. So without further ado, let me bring in the team so we can get started on our discussion. I hope you guys are all doing well. Thanks for being here. All right, I'm going to bring them in. All right, hey guys. How we doing? Happy holidays. First and foremost. I love how festive everybody looks. This is great. I'm so excited. I should have put on my Santa hat.
Can we see MBG's sweatshirt real quick?
Yes.
I just realized what it was. Yeah.
Yes. Oh, that's awesome. I love it. Represent.
It's the first man that ever had to reboot his sweater.
Oh,
What's yours, Stephen? I can only see the top. Is there anything cool underneath, or?
No, it's not cool. It's just there's a drunk snowman.
I mean, that's pretty cool.
It's cool, I guess.
I mean, that's the Christmas vibe. Drunk snowman, right?
It is at Nightdive.
Well, I think December is the time for that after a whole hardworking year, right? Putting out 5 games this year, so that's kind of crazy how small the team is and how many accomplishments there were this year, and still many more in development. So that's going to be really fun to talk about what our favorite one was this year and what you haven't finished yet, maybe. I mean, I'm kind of guilty of not finishing PO'd. But I plan on finishing it eventually. It's not because the remaster is bad, obviously. That's the good part about it. It's just because, you know, it's PO'd. So it pees me off. So I'll eventually get back to it.
Which is working as intended.
Yes, exactly. By design, so.
That's right.
All right, Locke, what did you think about our video games this year, and what was your favorite? What did you like? What are you looking forward to in the future that we've at least announced? So,
I mean, yeah, do we want to go through each of the games and just say something about them? Or do
I
we
think
wanna pick
so.
Our favorites off the top. Yeah, like, do you guys want to get started with like Dark Forces?
Yeah, that was the first
Just,
one on my
like,
list.
Get into it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I'll let Steven kind of take the lead on this one, but that was just a trip to be able to work on something that I truly played as a kid, and to be able to like spend a lot of time with it, and just chat with a lot of the like I worked on the trailer, and then I also worked on the deep dive episode with a couple of the devs, and just blown away by the amount of work and care that the team put into it. And then Steven being able to just chat with you about that on the show, on how much that game meant to you, it was really special. It was really fun, and yeah, what a neat project.
Yeah, it was my first PC game growing up. And the reason I even had it at all is because in, I think it was 1995, and my family, we went to Comp USA. I think
Oh,
if
I
you
remember
remember
Comp
those.
USA. That was my favorite place when I was younger, getting my PC games when I was just tiny. I was
Well,
playing
you would
like
just
Putt Putt and Freddy Fish and all those games when I was younger, but I still loved Comp USA.
they just had this huge wall to fit all the big boxes because they just took up so much shelf space, and so it was almost like going into a library. But we bought our first PC, and I tried to sneak a copy of the Doom shareware on like the conveyor, and my mom caught it before it got rung up, and she saw, before ESRB, you had the little thermometer that showed how hot and spicy it was.
Dang it,
No,
Mom.
this is too spicy. But hey, that Star Wars game over there, that looks, not so spicy. You bring that one home, and that basically began my lifelong love of just computer games.
Now,
It
Steven,
cracks
did
me
you,
up just thinking about how tame Doom really is, though, comparative to how they thought about it in the 90s. It's like, oh, you can't. This is blasphemy. No way. And then you see the games nowadays and you're like, it's like child's play. Come on.
Steve, did you have the software renderer, or do you have the 3D effects card? How were you playing it back in the day?
Oh yeah, this was before 3D accelerators were a thing.
Hmm.
So I just remember thinking it was going to be just like a console. You'd put the disc in, and it would just start up, and you'd be playing the game. And I remember my dad like going, "No, you have to install it." And then there's this thing called MS-DOS that you have to run, and then type in this list of commands. And I just remember being like, "Oh my gosh, is it even going to be worth it?" I think I still have the post-it note that's got the CD ... all that on there. But yeah, the next game, of course, would be Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2, which at first I ran in software mode.
Mm.
And I just remember being crushed seeing it run at like 10, 12 frames a second. And so I saved up all my money that summer and bought my first 3D accelerator just to, be able to play it in, I think it was either Direct 3D or Glide. It's one of the others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it number 9 card, Steve?
It was a 3D effects Voodoo 1.
Voodoo 1. There you go.
Yeah, that was the one that had the pass through, right? Like that wasn't a native card. You had to like pass it through or something. Do you remember that? Like it would have to pair up with your regular card. I don't think that was like a native card at the time. I think that was Voodoo 2.
It was it did use a PCI slot. I believe so, but it had TV out, and it came bundled with Turok Dinosaur Hunter, Jane's Longbow, and Moto Racer GP. So that was also my first time getting to play Turok.
Lots of core memories made there. It's crazy
Yeah.
how you've come to be able to remaster these games. That's nuts. I love that for you, honestly, especially Dark Forces being your first one. That must be
Yeah,
like one of the most special ones.
He had to learn to remaster them. He couldn't figure out the IRQ settings in the DOS, so.
We laugh about that, but man, I used to tear my hair out literally when I had hair back in those days, trying to figure out how to get my PC to work properly.
Yeah.
The trials and tribulations we went through to try and get sound to work too, like the list of I didn't know. I was a dumb kid. I was like, I just went through, selected Sound Blaster, whatever settings, tested it, no sound, and I just did that. I did that. That's just what you did.
You just kept on doing it until you kept like, Sound Blaster compatible until it made noise at you.
Yeah, I don't know. Dark Forces is such a cool game and an important game, and I don't know. Larry, can you speak at all to what a project like that means for Nightdive, or if you have any personal stories about it? But
So one of the things that I do want to call out is I don't think we ever disclosed, but we worked very closely with the teams over at both Disney and Lucas on that project. First of all, if you want to talk about intimidation, it's submitting your artwork to have the guys over at Lucasfilms look at it and tell you whether you drew the space background correctly or not. Little bit of intimidation, but everybody over there was great. And for people that own the game and have gone through the vault, all of those materials were made available to us by Disney and Lucas, by the folks over there, and that was absolutely great. The other parts of the process, I think with Dark Forces, I think that the gameplay was easier. We kept what was there, except of course we added certain features so you can look up now. I mean that was a bit very true to the game, but the art and in particular our lad Brendan did an absolutely fantastic job with the cutscenes.
Agreed.
No AI, yeah, that all represents the work of our artists. I think that was my biggest takeaway.
Yeah.
When those guys said it was good, we knew it was good.
Yeah.
It's definitely one of the
I,
first things I noticed when I played it. I comparatively from the original cutscenes to the new ones, I was like, wow, this looks great.
Steve,
Very
were
happy
you in charge of the art direction on that, or do you just kind of let them go wild? Just because that hand-drawn effect is really cool.
Well, I was good friends with Ben Coleman well before we had that project started, and when we signed it, I just knew that he was going to be perfect for that role. He worked, I think he still works with Wadget Eye, if I'm pronouncing that correct. They do the point and click adventure games, and so he was always posting on Twitter, the artwork that he was doing, and I was just foaming at the mouth, ready to hire him should the opportunity come up. And when it did, he just jumped on immediately. And then the story with Bren, who did a lot of the modeling and rendering and the cinematic work. When we were working with Bethesda on Quake 2, they showed us this video on YouTube of this fan remade cinematic, and they're like, "This is awesome. We want it to look just like this." And I was like, okay, we can do that. And then as soon as the call ended, I went on there and I tried to find the guy's contact information. And it took a lot of detective work to find this kid. And he's relatively young. I mean, comparatively, of course.
I don't get what you mean.
I ended up reaching out. Like, I found out where he went to school and where he graduated, and I called the office. I was like, I really want to get in contact with so-and-so because I have a job for them. And they're like, yeah, we don't work that way.
Okay,
We can't
weirdo.
give out that information, sir.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Do you know who I am?
I'll do anything, I don't care. And eventually I think I managed to get a hold of him somehow, and he was working as a bartender at the time. And I was like, hey, do you want to come on and do this full time? And he's like, yeah, I'll quit like today.
You're a savior. That's awesome.
Somewhere there's a bar where the patrons are cursing us even now.
Yeah.
I can tell you where that bar is, Larry, because Ren
right.
lives literally down the street from me, which is so funny for a fully remote company to have that close of proximity.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I mean, we're hiring up so much; it's just bound to happen. Like one of the artists on another project that we're working on, she lives in Portland, and I was like, oh, finally, there's somebody that lives near me that I can actually talk to. So that was great. But yeah, Bren and Ben, they really crushed the cinematics, and I worked closely with them just to make sure that we were kind of all aligned on how it should look and how it should honor the original. And as far as I know, the approval process was very, very smooth. Disney and Lucas, they loved it. One of the fun little stories was we were going through some review process of one of the scenes where you see outer space. And they're like, so the one thing we're going to have to change here is the star field in the background, because there's a very distinct star field used in Star Wars. And they actually sent us the files that they used on The Force Awakens to put those in so that it would be
Oh, nice.
exact. And, I never noticed that before, but now I do. There's very specific quasars and pulsars and all kinds of stuff out there that's distinctly Star Wars.
Well, I bet they, wanted to be super true to their own lore and stuff, but they probably knew that the super fans were going to notice that as well, keeping that in mind and be like, no, everything has to be perfect, because either we want it to be perfect or we're going to catch flack if it's not perfect from the super fans.
Steve, are you talking about the cutscenes, or are you talking about the cube map, or both?
The cutscenes.
Okay.
Specifically, like one of the first ones, you're on one of the Star Destroyers and you see Vader looking out the window, and he turns around and he talks to General Mock.
Yeah.
That scene where you can just see space outside, and when you see the Moldy Crow flying through space, that's all using the official Star Wars Starfield maps, I guess.
That's pretty cool.
Nice.
I would
Good
never
game.
have thought that amount of detail and granularity would be required, but hey, it's Star Wars.
True. I would argue like the biggest IP in the world, possibly. And can you think of anything bigger? So.
Pokemon?
Yeah, that's a good competition right there.
The only thing I could think of that would be up there with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we're not remastering any of those games.
No. Ever.
Nintendo
Yeah.
would have our heads.
Yeah. Nah.
All right.
we got
Anybody
next?
else got any comments about Dark Forces they want to throw in before we move on to another game?
I got more Dark Forces stories.
Go for it.
So the very first time I went to a midnight release for a video game was for Jedi Knight Dark Forces 2. And my parents brought me. It was like on a Thursday night, and that was at Babbage's at our local mall, and I was the only one there. So
Amazing.
I grabbed my copy. Yeah, I went home and installed it, and they were like, "Okay, you can play it for an hour, but it's like 2 a.m. and then you got to go to school tomorrow." And then, of course, like all day at school, all I'm thinking about is coming home and playing the game. This is a little adjacent. Just another little fun story I want to tell, but I got really into Rainbow Six at one point,
Me too.
and I loved the pre-planning stage where you had the maps and you could set up your Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta teams, and you could set up markers so that at certain points they would engage tangos, and it was very complex for back then. And so what I did is I didn't want to waste time at home figuring it all out just to run to have, Ding Chavez get killed right away.
Rest
So-
in peace.
I got the strategy guide and I used our scanner and I made copies of all the maps. And in class, what I did is I had them all with the red, blue, green, and yellow markers for the teams. And I pre-planned multiple objectives while I was in class so I could go home and just plug them in real quick and try them out. But yeah, that's like half of what I did at school was just wait to get home to play games.
And what was your GPA, Steve?
Wow.
I was pretty high. I think it was like a 3.8.
All right.
Yeah. It's video games.
Always getting in the way of everything.
I just want to go back to the story about how you went to a midnight launch and you were the only one that was there for Dark Forces 2.
Honestly.
I feel like there was going to be at least a handful of people to show up.
Well, we didn't even have internet back then, and the only way I found out about it was just visiting the store, and there was like a sign there that said, "Hey, we're gonna do midnight release."
Yeah.
But I subscribed to PT Gamer since like 1995, 96. And I remember in that magazine they would have previews and screenshots of the game, and I think that was like the first time I ever got like hyped about something, was seeing like previews of something that hadn't been released yet. So I was cutting out the images and I was making collages in my room, and I was a big fanboy.
I miss midnight launches, to be honest. Like, there was no better way besides actual conventions like E3, which rest in peace as well, to like meet with other gamers and actually like share the hype. Like I have so many core memories of midnight launches, of just showing up with other excited fans of like IPs that you're super into, and these people you would never meet other than maybe crossing paths with them online in a match or something like that. But I feel like the releases, the midnight releases and stuff, and everything going digital is kind of like what phased them out. And I just like, there's nothing that can replace that feeling of going there physically and waiting in line with everybody. I miss some of the good golden days.
So I got to tell you, my perception on those shows is really different, because I didn't start going to those shows until I was working in the business. So it's funny every year, you know, when I get back from GDC, people will ask me, "Oh, what did you see that was cool?" I was like, "You don't understand. I spent GDC basically locked in a hotel room."
Yeah.
You know, they just bring the press in one after another. When Daniel Gratian came to the first GDC with us, I told him quite seriously that at the end of day one, your face will hurt for having that smile
Yeah.
plastered on all day as you're meeting with the media. I mean, we book our appointments every half hour, every 45 minutes, and there's one after the other. That's it. You know, shows were always business for me, and it's very rare that I get to enjoy a show. The exception this year was QuakeCon. Got to go to QuakeCon, meet with the team. People don't realize that we don't see each other, in some cases ever, or very very often at least. So that's really cool, getting to see the folks there. But the other part was I got to be, I wasn't meeting with anybody. The deal was already done. We were just busting to be able to say, yeah, we did Doom and Doom 2. I will congrats to the folks over at Bethesda, over at id, because they really do keep it confidential. There were no leaks. I think everybody was surprised about that. But I can't tell you, the experience for me of going to those shows. Again, the biggest thing is getting to meet my fellow night divers, but the experience of having a night dive hoodie on, having a night dive, QuakeCon t-shirt, walking through, and people just start, they don't say anything to you. They just start calling out game titles that they want you to remaster. Somebody that you've never met before just gets in your face and yells at you, "No one lives forever," and you're like, yes.
X and when.
It's like a YouTube comment section, basically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Larry just yells at him, "I'm working on it. Come on."
Come on, just love the thing we just did for
Right.
5 minutes.
But what about System Shock too? Which we're working on it.
It's coming, I
It's
swear.
coming.
And it's funny. I mean, it's funny because we also get to meet with people that we partner with. That I talk to Dave Oshry, at least once every couple of weeks. This is the first time we get to meet in person, and that was a lot of fun also. Just a lot of people in the industry that we only work with remotely, and that QuakeCon was the opportunity to liaise with face to face. The other thing that I have to say is we took a picture at the end of QuakeCon. We had a lot of the night dive people. I'm not going to say everyone. I think it was pretty much everyone. And as we were standing in place waiting for the camera to get ready, I turned around to Steve and I said, "Did we actually hire all these people?"
They just showed up.
I guess we did.
I guess, yeah.
QuakeCon really is like our E3 though. That's what was awesome.
Yeah.
It really was nice being with the team when, most of us, if not all of us, work remotely. And it's going to be nice to be closer in the new year for me, moving back to Vegas with you guys. So I'm excited to see what we can do then. But yeah, QuakeCon is just an experience unlike anything else. If you haven't been, you gotta go. Like, especially if you're a big PC gamer, love landing, like all that, love Doom, Quake, you know, the classics. You gotta go at least once in your life. It's great.
I've commented about our working relationship with the folks over at Disney and Lucas. Let me just also say that the folks at Bethesda absolutely rolled out red carpet for us, and as enjoyable as all of that was, we had a really special deep dive that we did there. I was able to sit down with my friend Kevin Cloud and talk about classic games and the work that we've done together and where we go next.
That one was really special, honestly, seeing you two together, just like the OGs, you know.
There you go. And we managed to hold that entire interview without throwing up any gang signs that I'm aware of.
Right? Completely off the cuff, too. Crazy. All right,
great.
guys. With the next game we have on our list is PO'd. What can we say about PO'd?
What a game! What a game!
That one was really interesting because Sam, our lead programmer, developer in the Kex engine, he just DM'd me kind of out of the blue, and he never does that. And he just said, "Hey, my birthday's coming up. I was wondering if you could get me the source code for PO'd." Like,
out of all the
That's
birthday
a
gifts
sweater.
you could ask for.
yeah. I was like, "Okay, Sam, I'll see what I can do." And I found the original developers and reached out to them and told them exactly what I was trying to do, and they were just floored that anybody wanted to work on the game.
And remembered
And
it, probably.
Yeah, I mean, we got Sam on the calls with them, and he was just, telling them how much he loved it and how much it meant to them, and they were just taken aback by that, and it made the deal really easy. It was like, yeah, we'll do what we normally do, and we understand it's not a really well-known game, but hopefully this will put it on a lot more people's radars, and it'll just be fun. So yeah, that's how that happened. It was a birthday wish.
That's
That's
awesome.
pretty cool.
I was gonna ask, they still had the code, huh?
Yeah, and amazingly, they had been maintaining it all these
Wow.
years. So when it was delivered, I think within a couple days, Sam was like, "Hey, look, it's running on Switch." I was like, "Oh god,
Wow.
yeah,
Well, I guess we have to ship it now.
yeah."
Well, I'm glad Sam got to do it because we know how his Turok burnout was real. So the fact that he got to work on something that he was excited about and meant a lot to him was nice. For a good birthday present.
The number of people that posted that it was a forgotten game, but that it was meaningful to them, really surprised me. I think the game, there are a lot of things to say about it in its own right. I mean, games with that sense of humor, that really broad sense of humor. I mean, that's a forgotten period of time.
Agreed.
I think, and I think it's one that it's important in game development. I think there were a lot of things that came out of that that were not necessarily directly. You don't draw an arrow directly between that and PO'd, but just the sensibility about how games should be and not taking themselves too seriously. I think that alone is important there.
Does it kind of reminded me of the same humor as like Ren and Stimpy,
Yes.
Man, Earthworm Jim, like that weird grossness, which I appreciated at the time.
Like
But,
Clay
this is
Fighter
the-
as well.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
that trying to be edgy, but also
Yep.
shock factor. So, like, I mean, you shoot at butts,
Walking butts.
like walking butts. So that was the only game I'd never heard of that I'd worked on. that like I'd never heard of till I started recording footage for it, and I had to ask for like cheat codes because I was just getting my ass handed to me.
It
You
is
can't-
Pardon the
rough.
pun.
You can't say that there. We all get our asses handed to us. That's the nature of that level.
Yeah, that level. It's so weird, but I'm glad I played it. And I think it's an important, like you said, Larry, I think it's an important thing to keep alive. It's one of those games that's like, yeah, it's not the best game ever made, but it's important that we have it.
It is, like, that whole period is very important because, like, games, like, didn't have as many rules back in the day. Like, they could be as silly as possible. They could be as tongue-in-cheek, even borderline offensive or full-blown offensive. Like, that happened back in the day, too. So it's like there really was so much more that you could do and get away with back in the day. So I think there's a lot of gems that came out of that era that, you know, have stuck with me growing up from when I started gaming in the 90s to now. And I'm just like, I look at games today and I'm like, comparatively, and I'm just like, man, they could never get away with some of the stuff that I played when I was a kid. Like Conker's Bad Fur Day. Do you think something like that would ever come out? No way.
No. MVG, had you ever touched it before or done anything or any analysis or work on it?
No, I haven't done any work on it, but I'm familiar with PO'd. I actually have a 3DO and I have a copy of the game. Now,
Nice.
I will say I didn't buy a 3DO back when 3DOs were a thing. I ended up getting one like in the 2010s, and I just kind of went through the catalog of 3DO games and I played PO and kind of disregarded it as something that wasn't really that great. But I have played the remaster and actually really awesome. I mean, it's definitely the definitive version of the game, so that's pretty cool.
I mean, you shoot that rocket launcher and you immediately have to barf because it's first person rocket launcher missiles, and
It's a good time.
it is a good time.
In all the years that I've done interviews and all the years that I've met with the press, that I've done all those things, that was the first project that ever had people in the press ask me the question, why?
And Larry answered, because I can.
Why
That's
not?
right.
It probably didn't help that we released it on April Fool's too. I mean,
Yeah.
like, it
That's
was
the best
real.
business decision ever.
That's low-key one of the best April Fool's potential jokes because people don't know which way it's going.
Also,
Did
have
they?
to shout out
Or
the
did they?
have to shout out the key art. Like the key art is really good. And
Agreed.
I really enjoy it.
That would look beautiful
well
on a
as-
big box for sure.
Yeah, totally. And the backflip button, I think, is
Yes.
gold.
Yes.
I think.
Bring
with
that
the
back.
So
Coming soon to a big box near you.
I gotta say the jetpack was probably my favorite. I liked flying around. Got a little chaotic at times, but it was definitely cool to see that in like a retro shooter because you don't see that often. So, anybody else got anything they want to talk about with PO? No? Speak now, forever hold your peace. Okay.
It was a good surprise.
It was.
good surprise.
It was.
Didn't see it
The
coming,
next
I'm sure
one,
a lot of people didn't either.
for sure. I didn't expect it. That's for sure. The next one we have is Doom 1 and 2 re-release.
What a treat.
Agreed.
Absolutely.
Getting a surprise expansion, like that was neat.
Yeah.
That wasn't on my bingo card, Legacy of Rust. And just personally for me, listening to Zazer talk about that game and the work that goes into it and the community around it was just really informative and really special, and just a reminder of how pivotal Doom is. Not that that was ever in question, but yeah, I really like when people are super passionate about something and then they're able to showcase that in an official way. So yeah, what an amazing feat. That's all I'll say on that.
It seriously shows with Legacy of Rust, like as a longtime Doom player that's actually kind of masochistic about it, like playing on UV and higher, like UV was like nightmare to me on Legacy of Rust. Like it almost broke me in some of the levels. And so I literally was blown away by the level design and like what they managed to come up with together as an official release. And I think it fits perfectly in there because even like talking about like Doom 2 and how crazy Doom 2 can get on the higher difficulties, I think it fits in perfectly. And it was really impressive to see some of those levels that I really honestly thought I wasn't able to make it through, but I managed to pull it off. So I really appreciated that as somebody who loves to play on hard difficulties and have a really big challenge faced.
Yeah, I'm really glad that our team got an opportunity to work on that as well. There we had input and we got to work with Machine Games on the Quake 1 expansion.
Which was also amazing.
Yeah, you'll have to correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't think we actually built or helped develop those levels aside from just getting them to run and optimizing them for like Switch and that type of thing. But with Legacy of Rust, it was basically, I think Sam built a number of the levels himself. So did Zazer, and it was, it's a real treat when our team gets to kind of do something other than just the programming side. They also get to stretch their creative side of things as well, and hopefully there'll be more of that in the future.
I don't know how many people listening to this are aware of how strongly how much Nightdive has drawn from the modding community in hiring up, and so to have people who done that work even before they joined Nightdive, and now it's suddenly incredibly relevant to what they're working on. That was just a pleasure also. You mentioned Sam and Zazer. Lexi, I think she just won an acknowledgement for one of her levels. So there are a lot of people on our team that even before we started working on the project were intimately involved with the Dooms.
I think it's a really good point. And a lot of people ask me, how do I get into the industry? I think modding games is definitely one of those ways to get in.
Invaluable.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right, and especially at this time. I mean, people know that if you followed me, I've been very active in the IGDA, International Games Developers Association, and there's a lot of people coming up that are looking for direction, and it's a challenging time. You're graduating college, you have whatever student debt, and you're looking, oh my God, this studio just closed and the layoffs are going on. How do I find my way? And it's so important to walk in with a portfolio of work you've done, especially if you can say, well, I've been involved in the modding community. That opens the door to so many opportunities in retro.
Absolutely.
For sure. The other thing I wanted to talk about with Doom 1 and 2 was, I think in general there was a little bit of confusion as to why it was coming out again, because over the years there's been various releases of Doom 1 and 2. There's like Xbox Live Arcade, and then there was, I think Bethesda did one a couple of years ago, if you guys remember that. They did their own versions. But I think once people actually sat down and played it, they quickly understood why. Because it really just is everything. It just combines everything about Doom and Doom 2 in this amazing package that you don't really need to look at any other version of again.
Really,
this is the version.
It's the definitive one, and the fact that everything is in one place, and like you don't have to go searching. I mean, people like the old school experience of loading up their WADs and stuff like that, but like the fact that like this is all in one, and you can have it laid out where you can just binge the entire game, and it's like most important mega WADs and stuff. So I love that. Honestly, I love remasters in the sense of it making everything easy for me. Like I am like getting older and I don't want to do all of that work of like going to search for stuff, and like I like it all laid out for me and remastered, and it runs beautifully and stuff. So that's also what I absolutely adore about Nightdive's remasters, is because it makes it easy for me, and it's really beautiful and it works well and it's always enjoyable.
I just also would say that credit also really needs to go to the team at Bethesda that made uploading and using mods that the game did not ship, but they put a lot of effort into that system, and I think that it really is a tremendous service for the fans.
Agreed. They definitely do honor Doom the way it should be, and they definitely respect it a lot, and it shows in their releases, and especially how consumer friendly they are with being free updates and everything for people that have owned the previous versions. Like, I really like that they do that because they know how important that these classics are to their core community. So it's really cool that they understand that and they honor it like that.
And turning that on its head, they understand how important the community is to
Yeah.
to maintaining, all of these great IPs.
Absolutely. Still going 30 plus years. Never going to stop.
Kelsey, I was gonna say I built a like a Windows 98 machine in my living room so I could play old games, pull them out of the big box and go through that whole thing. And the last one I played was Nocturne. And I was like, oh man, this game is great, until I hit a bug. And I was like, oh yeah, like I can't just hope the developers are gonna
patch it.
put a patch out. And I remember I had to go to the Wayback Machine and find a like an official patch from whatever year that was. I had to transfer it onto USB, bring it out there, plug it in, install it, and then find out that it didn't fix the bug that I was having. And I'm like, well, I guess that's that.
We've gotten a little
Yes,
spoiled in the modern age with patching and
Steve,
being able
buy
to just
the rights to the game and
Right?
patch it.
So-
Get the team to do it.
So I know how this is going to go.
Yeah, well, see, that's what my thought was like, well, I'm just gonna go find who made this, and then I'll play it when we're done remastering.
I'll ask them how to fix this.
Nightdive's 2025 strategy is when Steve can't play a game, buy company. It's got a
I
red
mean,
phone.
ask for
Larry,
the
this
source
isn't
code.
working. Buy these guys for me. Larry, my game doesn't work.
It's
All right,
not that far from the truth.
Let's get back on the rails. Let's put this
Right?
conversation back on.
Yeah, does anybody else have anything they want to say about the Doom re-release? I mean, we already know it's amazing. And also, I do want to mention the Vault. The addition of the vaults in the Nightdive releases has been one of my favorite things ever, especially if it's a release that I wasn't able to play, that flew under my radar when I was younger. Like Killing Time, like the remastered of Killing Time was the first time I've ever experienced it. Like I had seen screenshots of it before and but not actually played it myself. So the fact that I could go through and look at all of the old assets and like what was actually improved on was really cool. So I love the vault is a thing in the remasters. And the Doom one was amazing. I actually, when I was streaming it from QuakeCon, we spent most of our stream just like looking at the vault and like hanging out in there and like seeing all the new stuff and like all the cut stuff that like a lot of people didn't even know existed. So much work, that just was scrapped, but like it's crazy, it's just like how much was shaved down that I learned about that I wasn't previously aware. So that's really cool.
The other thing that we're doing, and it kind of goes hand in hand with the vault, and this is my opportunity to thank you guys for it, is the deep dives. It's important not just to preserve the art and the code, but also to preserve the thoughts and the comments of the people that made the games. And
Definitely.
I think we have a real leadership role in doing that. There are a couple of more that'll be coming out at some point, but we're talking to people in the industry. And providing a context, John Melchior from NBC. I mentioned Kevin Cloud from id. Other people that we've spoken with in the games industry. There's also a sense of, my generation that in many ways started this, and still younger than Nolan Bushnell, but I tell people, you've got us for a period of time, that there are limits to that. So if you wanna get our thoughts on why we did what we did, this is a great time to ask. Don't wait too long. I think
I love that. With the vault stuff specifically, when we worked with id, there was somebody on their team that worked with us that was responsible for going into the archives and just pulling stuff up and going through it and looking at it, and he would post things in our Discord channel, and there would be like design docs written by John Romero that still had like coffee stains on them. Like just seeing that is really cool. I don't know if we included that specifically in the game. Unfortunately, everything has to go through an approval process before it ends up in that vault. But in most cases, everything gets in there, and for us and for a lot of people, it's like the first time that we've seen something that we knew existed for 25, 30 years.
I love that you mentioned the coffee stains because, like, really back in the day when, games like Doom were being made, a lot of the levels were designed by hand, by drawing on papers and stuff, and, like, all of the art sketched out and stuff. There really wasn't any robust art programs or, like, level design builders and stuff, so it was, like, you kind of mapped everything out. And honestly, even modders today will even map their maps out first by drawing it in at least a rough draft before they start going into Doom Builder. So I really like the fact that there's those old relics of, actual hand-drawn stuff and handwritten stuff that happen to have coffee stains on them. That's really cool.
Years ago, Matt Toshlag, who was Matt was part of the team that was behind Descent and Parallax Software, an OG in the industry. He also worked at Looking Glass at one point. Matt was speaking to my IGDA group, and they asked him what it was like making a game in those days. And I remember Matt started off by saying, "Well, okay, step one is you built your own game engine." There wasn't a Unity or an Unreal Godot. There wasn't any canned engine. You had to start off from that. And Kelsey, as you said, a lot of the level designs for classic games were drawn on graph paper.
Mm-hmm.
And coffee was what fueled our industry.
Yep.
Before there was Mountain Dew. Just give me the caffeine.
That's the shirt I need to get you for Christmas, Larry, is 4 coffees, no breakfast.
That pretty much sums me up right there. Yeah.
Oh, I'm right there with you, man. I'm right there with you.
All right, guys. I got Killing Time up next. Speaking of, we did mention it a little bit, talking about Doom. So that honestly was one of my favorite releases of this year, especially since, like I said, I hadn't played it previously, and the FMV is wonderful, and I really think we need to bring it back more nowadays. Like, it's definitely something that's so unique in video games, and we don't see it nearly as much anymore because of where graphics have gone nowadays. So I would love to see it make a comeback, and I know, like, there's teams like New Blood putting out games with FMV in there, and also Torpal Duke, the indie developer, has been doing a lot with that, and I want to see more of it. Like, I need more. Give me more.
Well, what made Killing Time so amazing was the idea of, what if we did a mashup of FMV meets FPS?
Mm-hmm. Can't get any better.
I think it's a real treat. It might be I don't know, it's tough with the thing being out there.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't played enough of the thing, but Killing Time, it might be my... it's just so weird and neat. And speaking with Albert, who did the character art restoration, like, that conversation just blew my mind. If you haven't listened to that interview, go watch. Albert's an amazing dude, amazing artist, and just listening to him and the care he has and the hoops he had to go through to make sure that art was on point. Because you got to think, you're taking FMV, so real photo and video, transferring it to digital, and then he has to take digital and basically recreate it. Just doing some mind-boggling witchery that I don't want to get into on this show, but Killing Time and just having that a bit of inside baseball knowledge made that title really special for me.
It was sorcery. It just was.
Oh, it's crazy. Yeah.
It's
But-
weird. We talked about PO'd earlier and how the source code was one of the most well-maintained code bases we've ever seen,
Yes.
and it was for a game like that. And then with Killing Time, that was
The
one of the
opposite.
most complete archives of assets we've ever seen. So there were original videos from the FMV segments that we could actually pull from, which I think is why it looked so high res, is because we could use the source this time, as opposed to what was in the game when it launched.
And pulling from both the 3DO and PC versions, so you're kind of getting the best of both worlds in terms of quality and kind of extra content. Again, for the definitive edition, but
Yeah, and I'm sure you talked about this with Albert, but I remember we were mid-development, and he was like, "We want to do this character, but we don't have the same source materials as the other characters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to 3D model this character, and I'm going to animate it, and then I'm going to take the frames, and I'm going to get it to mix in with the existing stuff from the 90s." And I was like, good luck with that. And a week later, he's like, I did 3 of them. There's 3 characters in the game now, and he was showing us the 3D models and stuff. I was like, how did you do that? That was
Technomancy.
wild, but you would never know by looking at it that those weren't original assets from the game. He made those from scratch.
That's what's so cool about remasters is that, back when there wasn't the ability to do stuff like that, games weren't able sometimes to reach their potential, but now that we have the tech we do nowadays and we can mash up what we got back in the day with what we have now, like magic can happen and cool stuff that, should have been done on the game with, when it had limitations, but is being done now. So I think that's really cool. Just a new way to experience it while still keeping the same spirit of the game.
I talked about my 3DO journey. Killing Time was definitely one of those games that
heck yeah,
was very memorable when I was playing it. I still have my original copy of it somewhere. And I remembered, Steve, we were at DICE. Larry, you and me were sitting, hanging out, and you told me that Killing Time was on the cards. I was like, oh wow, I'm pretty hyped about this. This is going to be awesome. And of course, didn't disappoint when it came out. It's probably not my favorite, but it's my second favorite this year of Nightdive releases.
that's pretty neat. I just have to shout out Josh and Indesga for schooling me on the dev cycle of that stuff, and again, just sharing their stories and their passion for their craft was a real privilege. Go watch those interviews, just because those guys are just like, again, wizards at what they do.
I would heartily encourage anybody that's played the game to watch the interviews and get a new level of appreciation of how it's made.
Yeah, really cool. And yeah, just those guys being patient with me, because I don't know a thing about code or any of that stuff, and they gotta like walk me through things, and so I really appreciated it. So, and have a new appreciation for what they do.
Definitely. I mean, I didn't want to put it down when I started picking it up, so it was definitely one of the remasters I finished like very quickly because I did most of it on stream for everybody, but once I had to end stream, I was like, nah, like I'm finishing this tomorrow. Like it was not going to be on stream because I have to just finish it. Like I know I'm so close to the end, and I've started to get into my groove of besting those puzzles, because as much as it is an FPS, it is very puzzly, and you have to figure out, and you have to be very observant with figuring out where those keys are. And I also like how it's not straight up a horror game, but there's definitely some creepy horror elements in there, like which I'm a huge horror fan, so I love that. Like it's got like this really unique vibe of like mashing up 20s aesthetic and like music, and then also those creepy clowns, tickle tickle, and like the zombies and all that stuff. So like I really loved that. I had a blast with it.
The clowns made it.
They did, honestly. They're like the mascot of Killing Time, I would say, at this point. Everybody loves that line.
So
The world is too. It's just so expansive.
Hmm.
and you can go anywhere you want right off the bat for
The
the
map
most
is
part.
huge. Yeah.
I remember playing an early build of it and being like, "What is this?" Like, there was no game like this back then because
Hmm.
I didn't play it originally when it came out. But I was just blown away again by all the wonderful kind of unique things that they did, and it just amazes me that somebody kind of didn't pick up where they left off right then and there. In terms of the innovations that they had started to develop, open world first person game. Like, what can you name one in the 90s?
No,
I don't
Mm-mm.
think
Or
so.
I don't even. I'm not even sure we had the term open world then. I
True.
mean, um, guys, I do a thing for holidays. I'm going to be donating blood. I'm gonna have to leave. I have a blood donation coming up. In a little
that's not
while.
a hint either.
Not. No, it's not. It's not. Although I will tell you, I did donate blood on the day that we released the game Blood. That was pretty funny.
Meta.
Um, but we should probably talk about that other game that we released this year.
Yes.
Yeah, the last one on our list, The Thing. How's everybody feeling about The Thing? I'm literally right at the end. I haven't finished it yet, but I'm very close to finishing it. I've
Talking
loved it.
about talking about a property that was intimidating to work with. Um, that's certainly one, and we knew in the case of The Thing that it was a game that had a lot of redeeming qualities, but I think everyone would have agreed that the original was deeply flawed. Um, and so we had an opportunity to work with Ron and with Mark from the original Computer Artworks team, and it was kind of a sense of going back and fixing your mistakes, for having an opportunity to do that. And that was really special for me. That was, I think, the thing that stayed with me most.
Did the
And
team
most
feel like they had big shoes to fill with this big IP and like making sure that the remaster lived up to expectations?
Absolutely, absolutely. In the early days, there was a lot of continual freak out as the devs were pouring through the game itself. It's a big game, and it's a complex one. Arguably the most complex game that we've ever done a remaster of. Um,
I had no idea. That's interesting.
yeah,
I mean, you can tell if you have played the original. I have the original Xbox version, and I played it. I really like the original game, but man, the stuff that was done to the the infection system in this, and some of the updates and the changes were just so great, to have, because I didn't really feel like it was gonna be modified the way it was. I just kind of felt like it would just be the original game, with which is, and it was just kexified to make it look better and everything. But to actually go into some of the systems and just tweak them and update them for 2024 kind of modern standards was phenomenal. And yeah, I mean, for me, the thing, maybe it's recency bias, but I think the thing for me is my favorite this year.
I agree. Also,
Incredible.
it's just top 5 horror movies and movies of all time for me too. So the fact that the remaster was as good as it was and looked great, they updated graphics and lighting, the textures, the controls being incredibly smooth. Like when I was streaming it for the launch day, I could switch between mouse and keyboard and controller like it was no problem. Like it was really wonderful to be able to have that fluidity instead of being like, hold on, I got to get used to these controls now, and not be able to switch back and forth. Both ways to play were really comfortable. So that is also very important to me with remasters and updated versions of games, is the playability and how fluid it is.
I always love it when people not Nightdive do a comparison video, as Jim did, comparing the original to the modern artwork. I love that kind of thing because you really can see that while we stay true to the look and feel of the original game, there have been major advancements on the art side as well.
I think the overall vibe of the game was massively improved on with the lighting, for sure. When I was watching comparison videos and even experiencing it as I was playing it, there were so many sections in the original that just were very gray and kind of like, in terms of the lighting, like soulless a little bit. And with the updated lighting of like the red hues and like the little bit more blue brought out and stuff, like I really think that it nailed more of the movies vibe than just having those like gray sections and stuff. Like it just immersed me more with that lighting.
That's a great observation. I really am pushing it up against the wire. So, but
Okay.
before I go, I want to say that there are a lot of things that make Night Dive special. Our team, our culture, the way that we do things. But something that has also been just a tremendous joy is I think we have the best fan base in the world. Um, and when you see me at a GDC or a QuakeCon, do feel free to shout out the names of what video games you want us to do next. I may flinch, but I really do enjoy it. So thank you, everybody, for a wonderful 2024.
Thank you, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
Thanks, Larry.
What was
Well-
your favorite release of the year, Steve?
Oh, I mean, it heavily leans towards Dark Forces, but we've got like a bookend. We've got Dark Forces at the beginning and the
Yup.
thing at the end.
And yeah.
Starting
and
off
I-
strong and ending strong.
Yeah. Just a great year overall for us. I mean, just the amount of output we get to work on and actually release is just kind of stunning.
Agreed, with the team size and everything. Like, it kind of blows my mind how much is in development at one time.
Yeah, and it's just a big obstacle that we face now, where we have a lot of companies coming to us with a lot of projects, and we just don't have enough people. Which is, going back to what Larry was saying earlier, we're in this great position where we can bring people on, we can hire people. We're not in this, in this cycle like a lot of the AAAs are, where they hire up to these massive teams, and if the game doesn't sell insanely well, then they have to let everyone go. We can do things like PO'd, we can do things like Killing Time, where it's not about the financial projections. It's not about, are we going to pay off the development costs of this? The dev costs themselves are conservative. They're not completely blown out of proportion. We work lean and mean, and that enables us to work in the way that we do. We can do multiple games a year. We can continue to grow and work on bigger and bigger projects. And it's just such a great place to be in. And I think the thing being the last game that we do this year is a good indicator of what's to come, in terms of the types of games we do, the quality level, the amount of effort that we're able to put into the art side of things and the visual presentation side of things. So yeah, it's going to be so exciting, announcing what we're working on next year.
I bet. I'm so excited. I mean, it just keeps getting better and better. And I love that you said that a Night Dive's in a great place to do that, because it honestly is a breath of fresh air with, what we've been experiencing in the industry. And it gives me hope for studios of, just constantly producing quality, but also appreciating their team and making sure that their team has a secure place with their work, and working smarter on the financial side of things and stuff to make sure that there is that safety, and just it's a breath of fresh air. So we appreciate everything that you're doing.
Yeah, I think a lot of what we do kind of harkens back to that time in the early 90s, where game development was really kind of like the Wild West. You could get a bunch of people together who didn't really have that much experience and just say, hey, let's just make this thing and see what happens.
Like a game jam that just becomes a thing. Yeah.
Right. And the great thing about that was you could have a team like I always like to reference Bullfrog and Peter Molyneux. You know, when they were first starting, they did like Theme Hospital and Dungeon Keeper and just a whole bunch of different games. They made something, and then when they were done with it, they went, "Hey, let's just make something completely different this time." Or let's take a couple ideas we had here and let's make a game based on that. And they didn't have to worry about, oh, if this game doesn't sell well, we're all done. Sometimes they would have failures and they would learn from that and they would make the next thing with that experience and knowledge, and the next thing would be even better. And we just don't get that anymore.
Nope.
Especially, you know, the AAA scene. You have a game that you spend $200 million on, and in the first week, if it doesn't meet those expectations, it's like, okay, everything you've learned and all these relationships you've formed with all these people, it's gone now. And they have to go somewhere else, and the whole thing kind of starts over again. And so we're kind of like, just feels like we're stagnating to some degree.
Agreed.
And then on the other side of things, you have teams that create an amazing game, and then they're forced to essentially just make a sequel to that. They can't go and do something original. You know, one of the studios that I really love is oh gosh, say I really love them. I
On
can't
the
remember.
spot now. On the
Yeah,
spot.
the team that made Bastion
Oh,
and Hades.
Supergiant.
Supergiant. Thank you.
I got you.
Yeah. So I think
gonna
that
be Clay or Supergiant.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's one of those too. Like they came out with something really cool that kind of propelled them from the indie scene to the next hierarchy, and then they did something different, and then they did something different. And you could argue some of those, you know, they just didn't work as well as some of their other games. But now you've got Hades, and they're like, oh my God, that was, you know, Hades 2 now. So, I don't know. I like what we
totally
do.
agree.
We do so many different things all the time. It's, you know, we're not going to do another game in a series that was successful because it doesn't exist, right?
Right. Yeah, there's just no risk taking anymore because a lot of companies aren't allowed to, like you said. It's just like, oh, if you're failing, or even if you do good, like remember Tango Gameworks suffered even though they put out Hi-Fi Rush, and that was a massive success, and the fact that they still got shuttered was mind-blowing to me. And it's just like these companies are just from the top down kind of just forced into a direction, and they don't really get to be creative. And I really like that Nightdive has that freedom to just do whatever. Like, we're going to be doing System Shock and games like that, but we're going to pepper in PO'd and Killing Time or whatever, and just these little silly whimsical projects that, you know, may have flown under the radar for a lot of people back in the day that people may have never heard of and stuff. Like, I really like that the team can just work like that, and they work very fast too. The fact that like they're working on these bigger projects, and then they have time to just go to the side and like do something like PO'd and put that out. Like, it's just really nice because Nightdive is full of surprises. I love that. Even I'm surprised a lot of the time with release drops that I don't even know about, and I'm just like, oh wow, that's cool. How sweet. What a nice treat.
Yeah, there's really no rhyme or reason to what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be a surprise when we announce something like, oh, wow, that game? For real?
I mean, that's great. Like, less predictable, the better, I think.
Yeah.
Shout out Larry.
Yep. A real one. Also, giving blood today. Definitely a real one.
Totally.
I did see a question from Dev1311 if we have a wish list of stuff we'd like to get a hold of. So Kelsey, I'll ask you, what's a game that you would like to see us do?
You know, I actually, besides Unreal, but we've already had that conversation a million times, that's probably my number one. But today, when I mentioned Clay Fighter, I can talk, I promise. I literally was just like, oh my gosh, that one I would love to see a remaster of, especially since it's that like stop motion fighting game animation, and I think that would be really cool. Like games of that era, like Earthworm Jim and stuff like that. Like I think something like that, Boogerman, I mean, it is kind of like a PO'd a little bit in the same vibe, but stuff like that. Like I grew up on a lot of those games, like whether they were the N64 or PC. So I think something like that would also kind of fit into what Nightdive is doing. But like I said, those games back in the day were a little bit more better received than they would be now. So it's kind of like you are taking a gamble remastering games like that nowadays, and like whether people are going to be interested in them or not. But since most of our fans are fans of the classics and they grew up on games like that too, you know, I'm pretty sure it still would be a hit in some regard. But yeah, stuff like that. Besides Unreal, I definitely would like to see those games that I grew up on remastered. And Clay Fighter is one of my favorite fighting games. So it's just so silly, and it's got a good roster. So I think with modern controls and like smoothness, it would be a lot of fun.
So on the stop motion idea, there's also games like the Neverhood and Skull Monkeys.
Mm-hmm.
And I think even Primal Rage was done using stop motion, right?
I would love to see that, because I actually just played that in a local arcade here, and I beat it in one sitting. It's very fast and easy to beat in one sitting, and I had a lot of fun with it. I would love to see that too. And I know I've seen that in the community be mentioned a lot.
My favorite mechanics from that game is being able to like kick up one of your supporters into the air and grab them and eat them for a quick little health boost. Like why?
Also,
why can't you have that in Street Fighter and Mortal Kombat? I mean, that would be great.
For real, right? I honestly would love to see Rampage. Rampage is one of my absolute favorites, and I think a remaster of Rampage would be incredible, especially like on modern operating systems, instead of having to pop in my old N64 cartridge every time I want to play Rampage. Even though I love that, I love original hardware, but it would be nice to have it accessible on like Steam or GOG or something like that, you know? I love Rampage, so that would be a good one.
Since we're talking about games that we'd like to see, I have one.
Go for it.
That would be Shadows of the Empire and
Ooh.
64.
Yeah.
I love that game.
Yeah.
We need to do something about that one.
All right, so I have a question about that. Would you prefer the N64 style cinematics where it's like a comic book, like 2D, or the PC cinematics where it's rendered?
I have to go back and look at the PC. I know that there are differences and that there is the PC version. I grew up with the N64 version, so let's put a pin in that one, Steve, because I need to look at the cinematics on the PC version before I give you an answer.
I think we could probably do both. You know, if one is just a 2D illustration, it shouldn't be hard to just flip back and forth if we're using the same audio, but that would be nice, because I'm assuming most people played it on N64.
Yeah, I think so.
That's where I played it, yeah.
Yeah, same.
I have to throw out another one, and it's me with my monster games. I'm sorry, but like Godzilla Destroy All Monsters Melee, I love that game, and it is an Atari game, so I think it might be attainable. If you can work your magic, Steve, I would be forever in your debt. I love that game. I was addicted to it on the GameCube back in the day.
You know, when I went to Atari the first time, there's like an office space that's just got a bunch of the old awards and like milestones, plaques, and all kinds of weird stuff like that. And I think that's in there. There's like a disc, and it says Godzilla Destroy All Monsters,
Yes.
and it says something like 1 million units sold or something like that.
It was so
and it's a little
good.
plaque.
A
Let's
lot
see
of
if I
people
can
don't
dig that up.
remember. Like me and my brother were on that for so long. It was just such a good brawler, and it's just like one of the best GameCube games, I think, that came out. And a lot of people don't remember it nowadays. So I think if like we brought it back and just like surprised everyone with it, oh my gosh, I would be so happy. That game is so good, especially if we spruced it up nowadays.
Matt McMuscles, do you know him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he always messages me about that game too. So
See, I'm not the only one. It's so good. So
Yeah.
I definitely would love to see that conversation started with Atari, just because it's like more attainable since it's Atari. So I feel like we could possibly get somewhere with that one.
yeah, it turns out that they still own the code to a lot of those games from that era, and that was before the current management that's in there now. But I think they found the records and they're like, oh yeah, we own the code rights to a lot of this stuff. But it's all licensed. So there's Godzilla, there's Dragon Ball Z. I think there's even a Transformers game in there too. Transformers Armada.
Oh, I
I think,
remember
or
that
it's just
one.
called Transformer. I think it's just called Transformers. It's a PS2 game. But yeah, I mean, we just have to get the appropriate licenses, of course. But that's it can be difficult sometimes.
Yeah, the legal side of things definitely causes a lot of hangups a lot of the time. But that's the number one for me. Besides, I change it from Rampage and Clay Fighter, although I'd love to see those too. But Godzilla after Unreal, 100%. Just because, like, I feel like it would make so many more fans of it nowadays, just because it's such an underrated gem that people have forgotten about from its time period. And Godzilla is big. A lot of people love Godzilla, so.
It seems like it wouldn't be too difficult to probably add in some skins too. Like you could do a -1 skin.
Yeah,
Something like that. That'd be pretty rad.
definitely. I would love to see that. What about
All right,
you, Locke?
Yeah, like, did you answer yet?
How much time we got? I have a no, I'm just kidding. I've been whittling it down because I don't want to.
You'll keep thinking of them after you already say your number one, like I did.
Weird stuff pops into my head at random times, and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, that'd be good," and I just have a running tab. But like, I saw in chat, someone said MDK, and I was like, "Of course MDK, of course."
Good pick.
But
Murder,
stuff
Death, Kill.
like Max Dr. Kurt, please, because it's those are the three characters in the game.
Oh right, yeah. Isn't it Murder, Death, Kill though? Isn't
No,
that?
it's Max Dr. Kurt.
I thought it was Murder, Death, Kill.
I'm going with Max Dr. Kurt.
Okay.
All right, chat. You give us the answer.
Blast Core for the 64. Let's do
pick.
that. That
Good
game is
pick.
weird and fun and awesome. Run around driving vehicles, trying to blow stuff up, and like it was like playing with like Tonka trucks. Every mission was super different. What else? Manhunt. I have a soft spot for
Yes.
Manhunt.
Oh my gosh, yes. 1 and 2. I would love to see
Yeah,
that.
they're both great. This is reaching, but like Parasite Eve, I think.
Yes.
Oh man.
Good pick.
Needs to be shown to more people. Stealing Josh's from our chat, Steve. Alpha Protocol, I think, could use a spiff up.
Sci-Fi
Parasite
filter.
Eve is a Christmas game, by the way. So everybody wants a nice, friendly family game. Parasite Eve this holidays. Where it's at.
Mutant dogs running after you. But just a few. I have more, but I'll leave it at that. If I had to
You
pick
said
one, I'd
Manhunt.
say I think Manhunt's great.
It is.
I look at it probably with rose-tinted glasses because I haven't touched it since it came out, but it did like, yes, it was gruesome and had that shock factor, but it did stealth in a certain way where you felt capable, which was unique at the time, that PS2 time era. So
Agreed. Also, if we're talking about Manhunt, we got to throw in Condemned. I would love to see a remaster of 1 and 2. Incredible.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
I love
yeah,
Condemned.
I think Condemned is one of the best horror games.
Agreed.
Hands down.
Mm-hmm.
So good. So good.
I was just about to say the exact same thing. When you say Manhunt, Condemned it just pops into my head too.
Yep.
Yeah.
They go
I
hand in
didn't
hand for
realize-
me.
I didn't realize Xbox 360, PS3 era games were on the table. No, that changes
dude.
everything.
Yeah, right?
It is now.
That
Like,
opens so many doors.
those games are old now.
Chronicles of Riddick, The Darkness.
Yeah.
Mhm. Honestly, I've been seeing a lot of conversation from people online, like shifting towards that. They're like, is PS2 like considered vintage now? Can we start
Yes.
moving into that era and remastering stuff? And I'm like, yes, absolutely, yes.
Bloodborne.
I mean, that was PS.
No,
Was
I
that a
know.
PS3 game? Was that
Bloodborne?
PS4?
It's PS4.
Bloodborne.
PS4.
Was it? Okay.
Just let me
Hey.
play it on PC, please.
I'm just gonna say yes to everything. so-
Yes.
Yeah.
There's so many remasters that we could do that I'd be happy with. So it really doesn't matter what direction we go in. So I'm going to play it. So
Beautiful. Where do we go from here, Cal?
all right. Any final thoughts that you guys have? Any for sending off 2024? Anything that maybe we can mention about next year that's not under lock and key and strict NDA? Whatever you want, Steve.
I will say that progress on System Shock 2, the remaster, is going very, very well.
Chat would love to hear that.
Yeah, it's just requiring a lot of testing. There's a lot of, as an in-sim to some degree, there's a lot of different things that can happen in that game. There's a lot of different, character builds you can make, and so that all has to be tested very thoroughly. And then because it was the game that kind of put Nightdive on the map, we just want to make sure that it's one of the smoothest, best things that we can do. So it has taken a really long time, but it's absolutely going to be worth the wait. And I saw a couple of people saying, they dragged their friends into doing some of the co-op.
Yeah.
And I know how difficult that is. And that multiplayer code is just spaghetti. It is
Oh,
not really well written, and that's another reason things are taking so long.
it's like undoing the worst balled up wire that you have underneath your desk, like code wise.
Do you just cut it on both ends and just redo it, or do you try to untangle it? It's,
Great one in chat, real quick, is Wolfenstein 2009. Absolutely love that game. Would love to see a remaster of that too. That's probably the most underrated Wolfenstein game, I would say.
True.
So many good ideas. Seriously, Nightdive's never gonna run out of games to remaster. They're gonna be doing it forever. So I hope you're ready for Steve.
I feel like games peaked right around that time. If I'm gonna, be that old man that yells at clouds, uh-oh, look at Locke, he's... Well, okay, from hear me out.
Oh, I'm listening. Sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, now I'm in trouble.
It's fine.
I will hear you out because around that time were some of my golden age of gaming, honestly, around the 360 era. Like, we had a lot of good stuff come out around that time.
It was the last time artists and programmers actually had to put effort into making something beautiful that would run on that hardware.
True.
Because after that, the restraints basically came off. They could start doing crazy things that they never could before, but with that came some really bad games, some really mediocre ones. And I feel like right around that 360 era, they were still kind of operating by those, like, the 8-bit rules, right? Like, we have this much memory to work with. We can't go over this. So find a better way, more efficient way, more interesting way to do things that led to better games, better design, better visuals.
100%.
So when I play like Wolfenstein 2009, the game is gorgeous, but it's still low poly because they had to, they really had to push it to the max. And in that, it doesn't look photorealistic, but it has its own definitive, or I should say, it has its own distinct kind of art style that really stands out. Whereas everything now, because, let's go photoreal, it's all kind of homogenizing, and it's all starting to kind of look the same. So, that's my TED Talk. Go play Wolfenstein 2009. Go play Enslaved Odyssey to the West. Yeah.
Enslaved is low-key one of the best games.
All right. Yeah. Go play I mean, I'll just say it just because go play Beyond Good and Evil. I think that's.
Yes.
I mean, it's one of those games that not many people have played, and it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah.
I'll shout out if anyone. This is if anyone hasn't watched any of the deep dive shows. You can go see MBG's beautiful face there. Does a really good job. To watch those, they're good shows. They've got
Awesome podcast.
interviews and stuff like that. The podcast is great. There's more stuff coming in the new year on that front. And yeah, I'll just say that the whole goal, or one of the goals at least, for me with that show is to showcase the talent and the people and the stories that go along with these games and these remakes and these remasters, to allow people to just have a little peek and see a little bit behind the curtain and bring a little bit more humanity to the development process, because I think that's a big thing that goes missing when you're making a product and you're selling a product, that you have to remember that the people making these are human and they have really cool stories and have to make certain decisions and have to work within constraints. So that's kind of the theme that I go through with when I chat with artists and designers and developers. So if you haven't watched those, go watch them. They're all on the YouTube channel. So yeah, enjoy.
And I know a lot of fans love hearing these stories and knowing the behind the scenes stuff, especially when it comes to updating these games. So that is your number one source of information for all of that, is watching Deep Dive. So if you haven't checked it out, definitely go do that, because there's a lot of brilliant minds that go on that show and talk about their experiences. So, and lots of talent. So you'll have a great time.
The other thing I want to add with Deep Dive is, we talk about game preservation and, the importance of preserving games, via various methods, right? But even preserving the stories, right? The development stories, the development diaries, I think is just as important to have those available and archived, because these stories get lost to time, unless there are outlets that cover these games. Having these developer diaries, these deep dive questions, I think is so valuable to have.
Agreed. All right, guys. Well, thank you so much for an awesome holiday edition of Live Deep Dive. It was a lot of fun chatting with you. Thank you guys for taking time out of your day to come on. I'm very excited to see where Nightdive goes next year, because I don't even know yet. I don't even get the pipeline until later, so I'm really excited to see what's coming. And especially like next year's QuakeCon, what announcement we're going to drop then. Oh, that's my favorite one of the year, if you couldn't already tell. So I'm very stoked. I know the fans are. I know you guys are. So thank you again for an awesome year. Thank you to chat for hanging out with us today. I hope you guys learned a lot about the releases this year and are just as excited as us to see what's coming next. And yeah. As you can tell from today, we have an endless catalog of things to remaster. So if you didn't get yours now, you're going to probably get it in the future. So thank you, guys. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And if I don't see you on the streams, which we do 2 times a week, Saturday and Monday, then I hope you have a great rest of your year. And hopefully we'll see you next year. And these guys, you're only going to see, unless you see them on Deep Dive, you're going to see them only now until the end of the year. So they will say Happy New Year and Happy Holidays right now and send you guys off. So I will see you on Saturday. So
Happy holidays.
All right. Happy holidays. Thanks, guys. And I will catch up with you later. I'll see you on Saturday.